Hi, my name's Tessmann, and today's video is going to be on my RC equipment. I've been getting a lot of questions on how long my stuff lasts and when I replace it, so that's going to be the topic we're going to focus on today. Let's get started. So we'll start off with my XB2. One of the things that's most impressive is the ball diff and how long it lasts. I get about 4 race events out of the ball diff, and that's without rebuilding or doing any maintenance to it at all. Just putting it basically on the shelf and picking it up for the next race. I obviously rebuild the rest of the car, but the ball diff is something that I don't really have to worry about in this car. And I think one of the reasons for that is they take a lot of care in building their ball diff, and they machine the outdrives flat after they've already done making them, just to make sure that the diff ring can sit flat on there. And that greatly improves the life of the diff and makes it so that you can run it very tight without having the diff be crunchy or not work properly. So you have a lot of adjustment in the diffs, and the diff won't slip. It's a very good part of the car. So another thing that's very impressive is the plastics. For example, the arms on this car that I've been running for almost a year now, and as you can see, there's not really any slop in the hinge pins. I haven't had any breakage, haven't had to replace them basically since this car came out the beginning of this year, beginning of 2022. As you can see, there's some wear on the front where it would, on the face of jumps, it kind of wears a bit. So I don't really worry about that until basically it touches the hinge pin, which is kind of getting close now, so I might have to replace them soon. But it's not a replacing out of having too much slop or if the arms break. It's basically just run them and don't worry about them. And they're just a really easy car to work with when you don't have to replace a lot of stuff. So let's move on to the shocks. That's one thing I'm kind of a stickler on, is I want to make sure my shocks are functioning really well and being very smooth. So I'll polish the shafts every couple events. But as far as bending shock shafts, I haven't bent one and I don't even remember the last time. So as far as the shock caps go, they are plastic. X-Ray does make an aluminum one, but I don't feel the need to run it. I just run the plastic ones on my two-wheel drive car here. I never have issues with them stripping out or breaking or anything like that. Let's move on to the spur gear and pinion. The spur gears, I have never stripped one out, but I also don't want to have any failures, so I replace it probably every 6 months, but it's not out of, the gear doesn't really show wear, it just kind of gets loud. Another thing I do to make it quieter is I boil the gear. It just makes it a little bit quieter on the track. I feel like it's a little bit cooler just to have a quieter car, so I just do that just for that. But yeah, the gears don't show wear, or they haven't given me any problems, but it's a cheap part and I just don't want anything to fail. So we'll move on to the chassis. As you can see, there's quite a bit of wear on it, but remember that when we race in America, there's a lot of different surfaces we race on, different tracks. Some are very abrasive, so this is running all year on this chassis. It does get pretty thin at the end, at the back of it here, but again, I don't really worry about it too much. The toe block actually is getting kind of thin, so I might have to replace that soon. But again, it's something that lasts, I feel like it lasts a lot better than other cars. The chassis material is very good quality, and again, you have to remember that some of the tracks are the jumps are very steep. Sometimes we don't have landings, and the track can be very abrasive. So I think this chassis is in pretty good shape considering all of that. So let's move on to a couple of the aluminum upgrades I run, or a few upgrades I run. The front bulkhead is aluminum, the steering rack, and then this back roll center plate, they call it. So these pieces I've had these pieces since they made the change in the rear on the transmission case, so it's about 3 years now, and I just keep moving them from car to car. If I get a new car, I'll take them off this car and put them on the new one. So again, there's no sign of wear. I'm a big believer in not replacing stuff unless I have to. So those are the few pieces that I switch from car to car and just kind of transfer along. The steering rack's maybe not quite as old because they have made a recent update to that in the last year. So that's about all the stuff I really need out of the box. Okay, so moving on to electronics, we'll start with the steering servo. I run the MKS 599SL servo. It's basically a shorty version of the servos that I run in my 8-scale cars. So it has a ton of torque, it's plenty for a 10-scale car. The reason I picked this one was for the speed of the servo. I like how the servo feels. I don't like changing the speed a lot in my radio, so I want to pick a servo that feels good, and then if I have to make small adjustments from there, I can. But the servo is extremely durable. I replace it about once a year, It's not from the servo failing, it's just to make sure I don't have any failures. When we spend a lot of money to go to these races, the companies spend a lot, they don't want something failing in the main that could have been prevented. So I change it once a year just to be safe, and I haven't had any problems with that. So next we'll move on to the speed controller motor. Hobbywing makes a really good product, and I run their speed controller motor basically till they come out with a new version. I really don't have any reason to change it other than that. It lasts such a long time. It's so durable that I haven't had to really replace it. I don't have any failures, so when they come out with a new model, they're always trying to improve stuff, so they come out with a new model, and that's when I'll switch it out. But it's not out of failure or necessity that I change it out. As far as motors, I do probably have 2 for each car that I go between, but they're different winds, and that's the only reason I change the motor out, is just for the amount of power that I need for different track sizes and layouts. Next is my battery of choice. I run the ProTech 4800 LCG pack. I basically get 4 of these at the beginning of the year, and then I'll cycle them between my 2 cars, so that's 2 for each car, and then throughout the weekend I'll run while I'm running one car, I'll let the other batteries rest, so that way I don't use them back to back to back. It kind of lets them cool down a little bit and seems to make the life of the battery longer. The batteries have always had a lot of power, even if we don't get to charge the full 8.6 volts. Like some places only allow 8.4, but still they have plenty of power. I hear a lot of people questioning the cost of the X-ray stuff, but if you buy quality, you're going to have more fun throughout the year, you're going to have less failures, you're going to need to replace less parts, and overall it's going to be cheaper for you to do a year of racing. You're going to be able to finish more races and have better success because you're not going to be constantly worrying about something breaking or having to replace this and that at the track. Even when you come back from a race, rebuilding your car for the next event, you're not going to have to do near as much maintenance, you're not going to have to replace as much stuff, so it's going to be an overall better experience, and I think you're just going to be happier with it. So these are the products I run, and I know I'm sponsored by them, but I take my sponsorship very seriously and want to have the best chance of success, so I don't just pick anything, I always pick the best. If you guys have any questions about if you own some of this stuff or are looking to buy, message me on Facebook. If you have any questions about that, I'll be happy to answer. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.